The company has zero chance of success. I hate to say that because there's still quite a few people in the U.S. at least who look to Sears for their employment, but there's no chance for the future there, in my opinion.
What happened to Sears? The name once meant quality, innovation, and the future of shopping. Sears was more than just a store. It was a place where families shopped, where kids played in the catalog showroom, and where American dreams were built. But now, those dreams have crumbled into dust. So, what happened to Sears? What went so disastrously wrong? Let's get you through the highs and lows of Sears' history, full of daring decisions, epic failures, and a downfall nobody saw coming. Stick around because the story of Sears is one you'll never forget. Sears' story starts in 1886 with Richard Warren Sears, a young man working as a station agent in North Redwood, Minnesota. One day, a shipment of unwanted gold watches arrives at his station, and instead of brushing it off, Sears sees an opportunity. He buys the watches for $12 each and turns around to sell them to other station agents for $14, making a cool $2 profit on each one. This small success plants a seed in his mind, and soon enough, Sears quits his job, moves to Minneapolis, and starts a mail-order business selling watches. By 1887, Sears teamed up with watchmaker Alva Roebuck, and the duo launched Sears, Roebuck and Company. Initially, they're just selling watches, but what happens next shifts the gears of American retail. In 1896, the U.S. government introduced rural free delivery, a game-changer that allowed Sears to reach customers in even the most remote parts of the country. And they don't waste a minute. In 1900, life on the farm meant the nearest general store was often a full day's wagon ride away. Supplies were scarce and choices were limited. But then, one day, a heavy book landed in the mailbox, bringing a whole new world. This was the Sears catalog, a thick, comprehensive collection of goods that transformed rural life. It wasn't just a book. It was like a portal to everything one could ever need or want. The Sears catalog, a modest watch and jewelry brochure, rapidly grew into a massive publication offering everything from clothes to farming equipment. This catalog became a lifeline for rural Americans, bringing goods they never had access to before right to their doorstep. Sears wasn't just selling products, they're transforming how people shop, making it possible for anyone anywhere to buy what they need without leaving home. This mail-order empire laid the foundation for Sears to become one of the biggest names in retail. The catalog offered an astonishing array of items: sewing machines, bicycles, musical instruments, even entire houses, all available with just a letter and a money order. For the children, it was a dream book. They would spend hours flipping through the toy section, eagerly circling their favorites and imagining what might arrive in the next delivery. Adults, too, found themselves lost in the pages, comparing tools, debating the merits of different home goods, and planning their next purchases. The Sears catalog quickly became more than just a shopping guide. It was a lifeline, a source of excitement and possibility in an otherwise routine life. Sears didn't stop by just offering basic goods. By 1908, they took innovation a step further by introducing kit homes, complete houses that could be ordered from the catalog. These homes came with all the necessary materials and instructions, and over 70,000 of them were sold between 1908 and 1940, allowing people to build their dream homes, quite literally, from the ground up. By 1925, after decades of dominating the mail-order market, Sears decided to adapt to the changing times. People were moving to cities, cars were becoming a daily life, and the company knew it had to evolve. On February 2, 1925, Sears opened its first retail store on Chicago's West Side. By the 1950s, Sears had become America's go-to store, becoming the heart of Main Streets nationwide. This was the golden age of Sears. And it wasn't just any store, it was where the American dream came alive. Imagine a bustling main street with folks from all walks of life, all headed toward that familiar Sears sign. It was more than just a place to shop, it was a part of everyday life. Stepping inside Sears back then was like walking into a treasure trove. You'd find the latest washing machines that made chores a whole lot easier, stylish clothes that kept everyone looking sharp, and everything else you could need under one roof. The aisles were packed with everything from power tools to perfumes, and the whole store buzzed with energy. The smell of freshly popped popcorn from the candy counter filled the air, blending with the rich scent of new leather from the shoe department. Kids would pull on their parents' sleeves, wide-eyed and excited, as they marveled at the toy displays. Shopping at Sears wasn't just a task, it was an outing, something to look forward to. However, what made Sears stand out wasn't just the sheer variety of stuff they offered. It was how they treated people. Sears was known for its customer service, which made you feel like you mattered. If you were shopping for a new refrigerator, the salesman wasn't just trying to make a quick sale. He'd take the time to chat, figure out what would work best for your kitchen, and help you find the perfect fit. And if something went wrong with your purchase, there was no need to worry. Sears' satisfaction guarantee covered you, and no questions were asked. Let's take a trip down memory lane and discuss those Sears brands that became staples in American households. Take Craftsman, for instance. These weren't just tools, they were almost like a family tradition. Thanks to that famous lifetime guarantee, dads would pass down their Craftsman toolboxes to their sons, knowing those tools would be around for the long haul. If a wrench ever broke? No big deal. Just take it back to Sears, and they'll hand you a new one, no questions asked. That kind of reliability made Craftsman a household name that was trusted by generations. Then there was Kenmore. When it came to appliances, Kenmore was the backbone of many homes. These weren't just washers, dryers, and refrigerators, the workhorses that kept the household running smoothly. Whether it was a washer, tough enough to clean a whole Little League team's uniforms, or a fridge that could handle the demands of a growing family, Kenmore was there, making life easier for millions of Americans. If you had a Kenmore, you knew you had something you could trust. And let's not forget die-hard batteries. It was all about living up to a name. These things were known for starting cars in the dead of winter or in the blistering heat of summer. People trusted die-hard so much that just saying a car had a die-hard battery was enough to vouch for its reliability. But the magic Sears brought into homes every year was the Christmas wish book. Every fall, that thick catalog would land in mailboxes, and it was like a little bit of holiday magic arriving right at your door. But it wasn't just any catalog. It was something special. Kids would spend hours poring over the pages, circling their dream toys, and imagining what might be under the tree come Christmas morning. Meanwhile, parents would take note, planning out those perfect holiday surprises. The wish book wasn't just selling toys, it was selling the magic of the season, making kids dream and giving parents a way to bring those dreams to life. Sears hit its stride in the 1970s, and boy, they aim high, literally. In 1974, they opened the Sears Tower in Chicago, a 110-story marvel that stood as the world's tallest building for 22 years. From the top, you can see 4 states, a fitting symbol of how far Sears' influence has spread across the country. But as Sears reached for the sky, dark clouds were brewing. The retail game was changing fast, and some new players started shaking things up. Names like Walmart and Kmart were beginning to pop up, offering something Sears hadn't quite anticipated: rock-bottom prices and a no-frills shopping experience that appealed to folks more concerned about their wallets than anything else. However, with Walmart and Kmart popping up, Sears had to start asking some tough questions. Could they adapt? Could they stay ahead of these lean, mean retail machines quickly gaining ground? At first, Sears didn't seem too worried. After all, they were the reigning champs of retail, with decades of success under their belt. However, while Sears was basking in its past glories, new competitors like Walmart and Kmart were coming up with fresh, innovative approaches. These upstarts were hungry, efficient, and eager to shake things up. Sears still maintained its tried-and-true formulas, like reliable Craftsman tools and Kenmore appliances. These were undoubtedly great products, but suddenly they weren't the only options available. Discount stores were rolling out similar items at lower prices, and customers started taking notice. Then came 2005, and Sears made a move many saw as a last-ditch effort to stay relevant. They merged with Kmart, their longtime rival, in a $1 billion deal. However, the synergy that was supposed to come from the merger didn't materialize, and Sears continued to face challenges as it tried to keep pace with the fast-moving retail environment. Here comes Edward Lampert, the new CEO of Sears Holdings, and the game plan took a sharp turn. Lampert, a Wall Street star with a knack for financial strategy, was suddenly at the helm of a retail giant. Though impressive in finance, his approach didn't quite hit the mark in retail. Instead of investing in stores and enhancing the shopping experience, Lampert zeroed in on cost-cutting and selling off assets. Picture running a marathon. Instead of training hard and eating right, you ditch your running shoes and cut back on water. That's pretty much what Lampert did with Sears. He started selling off valuable properties, trimming inventory, and slashing the workforce. As a result, Sears stores began to look run down and understocked. Customer service, once a hallmark of the Sears experience, became a distant memory. It wasn't just about the physical appearance of the stores, but the whole shopping vibe. The once familiar Sears experience started to fade away. However, perhaps the most significant misstep came in 1993 when Sears decided to scrap its iconic catalog. Now, you might think that catalogs were a bit old-fashioned by then, and maybe they were, but they were much more than glossy pages. The Sears catalog wasn't just a book filled with products. It was a distribution network, a customer database, and a powerful brand. The catalog was like an old friend to many shoppers, connecting them to a vast range of goods without having to leave their homes. Discontinuing it wasn't just about losing a sales channel, it was like tearing out a chapter of Sears' story. It was essential to how Sears reached its customers and maintained its brand presence. With Lampert's focus on cutting costs and the catalog's departure, Sears struggled to hold on to its identity. Here's where things took a horrible turn. Sears decided to pull the plug on its iconic catalog just as e-commerce was starting to heat up. In 1994, Amazon came along and effectively turned the Sears catalog into a digital juggernaut. Sears had everything it needed to become the king of online shopping: an established infrastructure, a huge customer base, and a strong brand. Instead, they handed that massive opportunity right over to Jeff Bezos, and he ran with it. Sears found itself in a real bind as the new millennium rolled in. The merger with Kmart, which had seemed like a brilliant strategy then, didn't turn out to be the game-changer they'd hoped for. Their stores were starting to look old and uninviting, and their once revered brands were losing their appeal. Meanwhile, a whole new generation of shoppers was growing up with no real attachment to the Sears name. For them, Sears was just another store, not the retail powerhouse it once was. By 2010, the cracks were showing big time. Sears Holdings reported its first annual loss in decades. The company that had been the face of American retail was now struggling to stay afloat. It was like watching a giant that used to dominate the landscape slowly lose its footing. Sears had been the go-to place for so many families, but now it was fighting to keep up with a world that had moved on without it. Sears's decline was more than a slow fade. It became a full-blown collapse. What began as a trickle in the 1970s turned into a roaring flood by the 2010s. Once a symbol of American retail might, Sears was now on life support. By 2017, those bustling Sears stores that had been a staple of Main Street USA were becoming increasingly rare. The retail titan, which had boasted over 3,500 locations across the country, had shrunk to a mere 685 stores. It was like watching a mighty oak tree slowly lose its branches, one by one. But it wasn't just the store closures that were breaking hearts. Sears began selling off its crown jewels, those beloved brands, woven into the fabric of American life for generations. Craftsman tools, once the backbone of countless home workshops, were sold to Stanley Black & Decker in 2017. Imagine the surprise and disappointment of loyal customers who had always thought of Craftsman as synonymous with Sears, and the sell-off didn't stop there. The Kenmore appliance brand, long celebrated for its reliability and value, was also put up for sale. Even die-hard batteries, known for starting countless cars in the dead of winter, were on the chopping block. It felt as though Sears was dismantling its very identity, leaving longtime customers wondering what, if anything, would remain of the brand they had trusted for so many years. At the wheel of this struggling giant was Edward Lampert, whose leadership became increasingly controversial as Sears hit rough waters. Lampert wore two hats. He was both the CEO of Sears and the head of a hedge fund that owned a major chunk of the company. This setup raised eyebrows and led to some dubious choices. Instead of investing in freshening up the stores or improving the shopping experience, Lampert focused on financial shuffles. He worked on complex deals that seemed to benefit his hedge fund more than they did Sears' retail operations. It was as if he was more interested in rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic rather than avoiding the iceberg. For many, watching Sears' downfall felt like losing a cherished family member. Sears had been a constant presence in American life for decades. It was the store where you bought your first bicycle, where your parents picked up their home appliances, and where families did their back-to-school shopping. Picture a longtime Sears employee who had dedicated years to the company, only to watch it slowly fall apart. Or imagine a retiree walking into their favorite Sears store, only to find it nearly empty with store closing signs hanging everywhere. It wasn't just about the store shutting its doors. It felt like the end of a significant chapter in their lives. When the news hit about Sears closing stores and laying off employees, social media lit up with posts full of nostalgia and sadness. People reminisced about childhood visits to Sears, thumbing through the Wishbook catalog, or getting their first job at the local store. It felt like everyone was grieving for a piece of American history that was slipping away. In October 2018, things worsened when Sears Holdings filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. It was a crushing blow for a company that had survived world wars, economic depressions, and countless ups and downs over its 132-year history. The end of Sears wasn't just a big business failure. It was like the final curtain call for a cherished institution that had been a staple in American life. Sears wasn't just any store. It was a trusted name, a reliable source for everything from clothing to appliances. As it began to decline, it left a gap that many people are still trying to fill. Think about the families who had counted on Sears for everything from baby clothes to lawnmowers. For them, the store's fading presence wasn't just about losing a shopping option. It was like saying goodbye to a part of their family's story. Many of us can recall the excitement of flipping through the thick Sears catalog with our parents or grandparents, planning out purchases for the year ahead. Those catalog browsing sessions weren't just shopping errands, but family events filled with anticipation and dreams. And then there were the employees. For those who worked at Sears for decades, it wasn't just a job, it was a significant part of their lives. Imagine dedicating 30 years to a company and then watching it decline. The sense of pride and stability they once felt was replaced by uncertainty and frustration. Many employees found themselves jobless later in life, struggling to adapt to a job market that had evolved significantly since they first started working at Sears. The decline of Sears was made even tougher by the choices made by those running the company. As employees lost their jobs and customers lost their favorite store, it seemed like the higher-ups were more interested in financial maneuvers than in saving the brand. It was like they forgot that Sears was more than just a business. It was part of American culture. The impact was felt far and wide. In many towns, Sears was the anchor store in the mall, and when it closed, it left a big hole, not just in the mall, but in the community. Other businesses that depended on Sears foot traffic also started closing, leading to a ripple effect. Towns that used to be bustling on weekends now had empty parking lots and quiet streets. Watching Sears' slow decline was like watching a car crash in slow motion. You could see it coming, but it felt like you could do nothing to stop it. Each new announcement about store closures or brand sales brought a mix of nostalgia and sadness. Social media was full of people sharing their Sears memories, almost as if they were saying goodbye to an old friend. The end of Sears also marked a shift in American optimism. For many, Sears was a symbol of the American dream, the idea that you could build a better life with hard work and the right tools, often bought from Sears. Its decline seemed to mirror a bigger societal change, moving away from the steady progress Sears once stood for. The biggest blow was to our sense of trust. Sears had been such a constant presence that its disappearance made people wonder what other seemingly stable things might be fragile. If Sears could fall, what else might be at risk? Share your thoughts on this with us in the comment box below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and give it a thumbs up. It really